Good morning. Uh, so we are left with a couple of topics. One being the mixing of air streams. What is it actually? See, when you take an air conditioning unit, okay, when you take an air conditioning unit, so what we'll have is actually we'll be having uh, air streams mixed into that particular unit at different temperature. Okay. Now let's take on Airstream 1 and I have an Airstream 2 and Airstream 1 with some mass flow rate of M1 with a specific humidity omega 1 and maybe at some enthalpy H1. Okay. And so this also an air. So this also an air. So and they want to mix and form a third stream with a mass M2 omega 2 H2 and they want to mix into another stream which I call it as M3 omega 3 H3. Okay. Now when I call it as mixing, okay, so see mixing of this process is very frequently happens in air conditioning unit. That's one particular thing which I told. But this mixing has to take place at some condition. Okay, so the mixing has to take place at without addition or rejection of heat or moisture. Okay, mixing of air stream has to take place without any any addition of heat or moisture. Okay, without any addition of heat or moisture, it should not either reject it. That is, what is it actually? That is, it is nothing but adiabatically. Okay, at constant total moisture. The meaning of is actually constant the total. So this is the meaning of it actually. Moisture content or whatever it may some of these. So now, so as I told, if I go with the mass flow rate, so mass of the stream. So if M1 is the mass of stream 1, M2 is the mass of stream 2, so M3 is the mass of mixed stream. Okay, this is about your in terms of mass, what I call it as in terms of mass. Now in terms of humidity, if I write, this will be M1 into omega 1 plus M2 into omega 2 will be equal to M3 into omega 3. I'm calling it as equation number 2. So in terms of enthalpies, if I write the same mixing in terms of enthalpies, what will happen? This will be M1 into H1 plus M2 into H2 is equal to M3 into H3. So I have three equations, one with respect to mass, another with respect to and maybe humidity, other one with respect to enthalpies. Now, so can I rearrange if see M1 is equal to, I can write it as, I can write M2 is equal to M1 minus M2, whatever the way I want, I can write it. So I can rearrange the equations in whatever the way I want. Okay, I can rearrange the equations in whatever the way I want. But if I want to get in terms of the ratio of M1 by M2, okay, the equation 2 and equation 3 can be, so M1 I can take it on one side and M2 I can take it on other side. So how I can do that? So consider the equation 2. So rearranging the equations 2 and 3. What it is actually, I am going to put wherever I have M3, okay, I will put M1 plus M2. Okay, so 2 I can write it as M1 into omega 1 plus M2 into omega 2. So M3 I will write it as M1 plus m2 into omega 3. So this will become m1 into omega 1 plus m2 into omega 2 is equal to m1 into omega 3 plus m2 into omega 3, or I can take m1 omega 1 and you can take this one to the left hand side. So this will become m1 into omega 3. So this will be m2 into omega 3 minus m2 into omega 2. Or if I take m1 common, this will be omega 1 minus omega 3 is equal to m2 into omega 3 minus omega 2. So this I am calling it as equation number 4. Similarly, for equation 3 I can write it as, so equation 3 I can write it as m1 into h1 plus m2 into h2. I can write it as m1 plus m2 into h3, or I can write m1 into h1 plus m2 into h2 is equal to m1 into h3 plus m2 into h3, or I can write m1 into h1 minus m1 into h3 is equal to m2 into h3 minus m2 into h2, or I can write m1 common, I can write it h1 minus h3 is equal to m2 into h3 minus h2. So I have got two more equations like this, or I can combine this, or I can write, see from equation 4 I can write it as m1 by m2 is equal to, okay, m1 by m2 I can write it as omega 3 minus omega 2 divided by omega 1 minus omega 3, and I can write from equation 5 I can write it as m1 minus m1 by m2 as h3 minus h2 divided by h1 minus h3, or combined I can write it as m1 by m2 is equal to omega 3 minus omega 2 divided by omega 1 minus omega 3, which is equal to h3 minus h2 divided by h1 minus h3. I can call this as equation number 6. Okay. See, what is it actually? What is it actually? I can show this particular process at any given point on your psychrometric chart. See, on a psychrometric chart, what it is actually, let me show that. I think that's better if people will be in a better position. Let me draw the psychrometric chart. So this is your, you put the chart. Okay. What is it actually? This is nothing but I am trying to have one particular process. At one particular process, let me call this as some point 1. Okay. Now, this mixing actually. So, it's at some temperature. Okay, that means there's at some temperature. So, if I try to, this is a point 1. There's a some temperature. Dry bulb temperature 1. Okay. I have one more point, which is it somewhere here. So, this is point 2. That is the stream at that particular temperature, which is at some dry bulb temperature TB2. Because this is my dry bulb temperature, and if I try to draw the corresponding this thing, this will be my omega 1, okay, and this will be my omega 2. Okay. Now, how to get the corresponding enthalpies? As I told, they run in the parallel actually. So you have an enthalpy bar line, something like this, okay, and if I try to draw a line to it on the psychrometric chart, okay, the psychrometric chart, you will be getting that enthalpy value. Okay, so this is your H2 and this is your H1. Okay, so I got all my values at to this thing. Now I'm going to mix it. See, as I told, the mixing, because of the mixing, the temperature, what I call it as maybe some temperature which is an intermediate temperature. Okay, so maybe the mixing line is something like this. It is from 1 to 2. So this is the process. Okay, this is the process. Now omega 1 and omega 2 I have. Okay, then I have H1 and H2. So there is an intermediate point. Okay, so this intermediate point depends on many factors. So let me let this point be somewhere at this particular point. So this is the point 3. Okay, that is the point 3. So look at this. So this is my omega 3 and this is my dry bulb temperature 3 and corresponding enthalpy. I can get it from the enthalpy of the chart like this. This will be my H3. This is my H3. Now look at this actually. Now look at this, the beauty of this actually. What is the mass flow rate M1 by M2? M1 by M2 is equal to omega 3 minus omega 2 divided by omega 1 minus omega 3. That means this mass flow rate, what I'm trying to get actually, I can easily get if I know the values. Okay, if I know the omega 1, omega 2, omega 3, so omega 3 by omega 2 divided by omega 1 minus omega 3. So similarly, I can get the enthalpies. So if I know the mass flow rate, that is H3 minus H2 divided by H1 minus H3. So this mass flow rates easily, so on maybe if I see the specific humidity and the enthalpies, see, they are all linear. See, what type of equation this is? They are completely linear. The specific humidity values and the enthalpy scales, what I am getting, the values I am getting are linear. Maybe you see this is that maybe we are just ignoring the enthalpy deviations. So the deviations means small minute deviations, 0.1, 0.2 like that. On a whole, we are getting this. So the final, see, when you have this is as a linear scale, linear one, the point 3 should be on that linear point on the C. If I try to connect between 1 and 2, I am trying to connect the point 1 and 2. The 3 lies on a straight line connecting the initial and final states. Okay, 1 is a state before mixing, 2 is a state before mixing, and 3 is the state after mixing of the two streams, 1 and 2, or A and B, whatever it may. Okay. Now, if it has to be at the same ratios, M1 and M2 has to be same ratio, then omega 3 minus omega 2 or omega 1 minus they should be same. So that values, so depending upon what ratio you are trying to do, the two masses of the different air streams, how they are mixed, in what quantity they are mixed. So now, the one more thing what we have to remember is that actually, if the air quantities are known in terms of maybe mass units, that is mass flow rate, I can sufficiently accurately tell that what is the quantity of what is the volume of the air in these equations. I can easily, because if I know the omega, the specific humidity, if I know the enthalpy, I can easily calculate. Okay, so that's how this mixing of these two streams are very, very important. Where M is the mass of that particular air and omega is the specific humidity and H is the enthalpy. So knowing this particular thing, I can easily look into this kind of mixing of. So just I'm showing you two streams. There can be more than two streams also. Only thing is I should be able to balance the humidity and enthalpy. Very accurately I need to do it. So mixing of two streams is always the best possible process. Okay. One more thing. So once we are done with this particular thing, we have one particular definition, what is called as adiabatic saturation temperatures. What is the adiabatic saturation temperature? Before we get into that adiabatic saturation temperature, let's try to look into adiabatic saturation process. So adiabatic saturation process. what it is actually. So for example, I do have some kind of an insulated chamber. Let's assume that I have an insulated chamber like this. I have an insulated chamber. So most of the air conditioning units are insulated because we don't want any external heat to enter it. So let's assume that this is all insulated. They're all insulated. So completely insulated, nothing goes into that particular. I have an insulated chamber like this. Now, inside this chamber, I want to make some modifications. Okay, what it is actually, see if I try to consider this insulated chamber, okay, let me consider this insulated chamber itself. So to this insulated chamber, I am going to send unsaturated air. Okay, so the unsaturated air means actually what it is actually, that is, so saturated air means actually the capability of that particular thing to reach the saturation. It has to evaporate. So if I try to send unsaturated air, okay, and inside I'll be having the water. Okay, inside I'll be having the water. Okay, what does it do? The unsaturated air, as it goes, so this is how it is going. The unsaturated air, as it flows over the water, its humidity increases and it becomes a saturated air. Okay, what it is actually, see, 1 kg of, say, what I'm trying to send, see, to be very precise, I'm sending, let me assume I'm sending 1 kg of dry air at dry bulb temperature. Let me call it as TB, dry bulb, TDB. Okay. Let me call it as T dry bulb temperature 1. Okay. Then I am trying to add, so these are some specific humidity 1. Okay, this is a specific humidity 1. So let me call it as omega 2, omega 1 actually. Omega 1 is the specific humidity of this particular air that is coming. Now what will happen when it's coming out? So this will come out as 1 kg of dry air at dry bulb temperature 2. Okay, some other temperature, that is saturation. Plus your omega 2, what I am going to get, this will be completely saturated. What is saturated? I won't be in a position to add more amount of water to it. Saturation. It has reached, it is unable to take any extra amount of water into vapor into it. So it is completely saturated. So what will happen? This evaporation takes place as the air flows over this particular insulated chamber. The evaporation takes place. Both the air and water is cooled. This is what happens in your air conditioning, that particular chilling chamber and all. I am going to send an unsaturated air. This unsaturated air, see, this is nothing but, see, this is nothing but I have the water at, so this is at dry bulb temperature 2. Okay, so what will happen as the evaporation takes place? I have to send some makeup water because it's getting saturated and it's going out. So slowly I need to fill that particular chamber water, maybe the base of that particular insulated chamber with the water. See, the process will be continuous. The process will continue until the energy, see, you have to see that, see, from the air to the water is, I'm going to see some kind of an energy balance. So that may be required to vaporize the water. So what is the energy balance we have to put actually? Here the energy is actually the air has to pick the water vapor because of its vaporization. Okay. So at this particular point, when this particular point, the evaporation or vaporization point reaches, so there exists some kind of an thermal equilibrium. I can't add more. There exists some kind of a thermal equilibrium between the water, air, and your water vapor. Water is at the bottom, air is flowing. There is a water vapor which is evaporating, vaporizing, and this particular thing we call it as saturation. This leads to what is called as saturation. That is a process called as air saturation. And the equilibrium temperature at which this particular process occurs is called as adiabatic saturation temperature. Okay, and some of the books they call this as thermodynamic wet bulb temperature. So what we already discussed, wet bulb temperature, but wet bulb temperature at some equilibrium conditions. But adiabatic saturation temperature is the best possible way we are going to call it. Okay, let me write that whatever I discussed now, that particular thing. So let me write that. So in the insulated chamber, as the unsaturated air, flows over the water. Okay, the water evaporates. The water evaporates, and the specific humidity. What will happen? So when the water evaporates, the specific humidity has to increase. So specific humidity increases. This is the first point. So the second point is actually when the evaporation, both the water are cooled. So when the evaporation takes place, both air and water are cooled. This is the second point. Okay. The third point. See, the process continues. This process is continuous until I reach the energy. The energy required. See, the energy transfer from the air to water is equal to energy required to vaporize the water. That is, there is an energy balance. So the energy balance, we call it as energy balance between what? The energy transferred from the air to the water is equal to energy required to vaporize the air, vaporize the water. That means there should be an energy balance. Then only I could see this. So all this happens at some equilibrium point. Okay. So the fourth point is the equilibrium temperature. The equilibrium point at which the water, air, and water vapor, reaches. Okay, the equilibrium at which the water, air, and vapor reaches is called as adiabatic saturation. adiabatic saturation, and the corresponding temperature is called as adiabatic saturation temperature. Adiabatic saturation temperature. So this is, we call it as adiabatic saturation temperature, and few books they call this as the thermodynamic equal temperature also. So if I want to show it on some kind of a TS diagram, I can show it easily. So one at some temperature 1 and other one some temperature 2. So I may be reading some other dew point wet bulb temperature or something. So let me show it on a what we call it as a TS diagram. It is something like this. Okay. This is my TS diagram temperature. So temperature entropy diagram. So I do have a dome. This is my dome. So I have some temperature, some point. This is 0.1. Okay. So this is 0.2. So this is nothing but, let me call this as dry bulb temperature 1. So corresponding temperature, this is your dry bulb temperature 1. Okay. So I have some other point which is dew point dry bulb temperature. This is your dry bulb temperature 2. Okay. So dew point temperature. This is not dry bulb. This is dew point temperature. This is your dew point temperature 1. Okay. Now, what will happen if I try to go from 1? I'll be going like this. Okay. So this particular point will be your what is called as adiabatic saturation temperature. This is process. This is the process. It's coming like this. Okay. So this is your dew point temperature at saturation. So I'm going in this particular fashion. So I'll be going like this to this particular point. Okay, that means I'm trying to send. See, this is your unsaturated, okay, air. Okay, so this is where it's going to reach the saturation. So see, this is the initially unsaturated air. What is going to do? So it's going to go. So this is your, we call it as adiabatic saturation process. Saturation. What's going to do? So it's, as I'm sending it at some temperature, higher temperature, it is going to pick up the, that means at some saturation temperature, it's going to vaporize, that is water vapor is going to pick it, its humidity increases and its temperature gets reduced, and without losing any heat or gaining heat, and what temperature I'm going to get, that is your saturation, what we call saturation temperature, or corresponding process we call it as saturation process. And usually this is usually a cooling process, and which is very much required in your most of your air conditioning unit. Okay, so most of your air conditioning unit we have this. Okay, so we have few more things actually. One is called as bypass factors. Okay, bypass factors. Bypass factors. So this is, I can do it for heating and cooling, for both things. Okay. See, what will happen? Let's take for example, first thing we call it as heating. Sensible heating process, what we have already discussed. So let me put it on a psychrometric chart or something. Already we have seen this. Okay. That means if I have a psychrometric chart like this, This is my psychrometric chart. I am going to heat this particular thing. So if I try to show it on a how the sensible heating process takes place, this is how it is. Okay, I have a heating coil. Okay. So now assume that air enters at some, see, air at point 1. Okay. Now this is air at point 2. Okay. Now this is your 3, which is at a very high temperature, because this is a heating coil. Okay, this is the heating coil. What is it actually? See, air process over a surface which is at a temperature greater than its dry bulb temperature. Okay, what is the meaning of it? Okay, if I try to show it on your what we call it a psychrometric chart, that means this is point 1. Okay, I am going in this direction. I'll show that. I'll show where it is 2, where is 3. I'll try to show it. I'm trying to go in this direction. So the corresponding temperature here is actually, this is your dry bulb temperature 1. Okay, and the corresponding enthalpy, if you want to see, so I can say this will be my H1. This will be my H1, and this is your omegas in this direction. So what will happen? I am going to, so whenever I heat it actually, suppose I want to reach a point. Okay, I want to reach a point 2. I want to heat the air to point 2. Okay, let me call this as point 2. So let me call it as temperature. This is your dry bulb temperature 2, and the corresponding enthalpy, this is what you are. So the heating is achieved by passing the air over a heating coil. So heating coil can be a simple electric resistance coil, or sometimes we may use steam. But during the process, the specific, see, look at this, what's happening during this process, the specific humidity almost remains constant. Okay, during this process, if you closely observe, the specific humidity value almost remains constant. Dry bulb temperature is slowly increasing and approaches the surface, approaches the value that of your surface. See, what's happening? Slowly, the air is coming in contact with your coil and it is slowly getting heated up. Okay, so it reaches from 1 to 2. So the extent to which it approaches the surface temperature of the coil, okay, the extent to which, to what extent, okay, so to what extent the air reaches the effect surface temperature of the coil is expressed by this bypass factor. Proper. It is a ratio of the temperature difference between the mean temperature of the maybe your mean surface temperature of Z temperature coil is leaving divided by the mean surface temperature with what is the temperature with which capacity of heating. Okay. So if this is the point 3, so this is the point 3. So this is your dry bulb temperature 3, and this will be your corresponding H3. Okay. So the bypass factor, see the bypass factor is anything but, let me write that. So what is the bypass factor? If suppose, so bypass factor, it is the ratio of bypass factor. It is the mean surface temperature, the ratio of difference between the mean surface temperatures the air temperature of the air temperature leaving the system to the difference between the mean surface temperature of the coil and the air entering temperature, or the temperature at which air enters the system. Okay. See, TD1, TDB, dry bulb temperature with which the air goes out, and the mean temperature of the coil as TDB3 minus TDB2 divided by TDB3 minus first express the what is happening. So it's capacity. So similarly, see, this is for the heating, the bypass factor for heating. What about for bypass factor for cooling? I have to do the reverse process. Okay. So bypass factor for cooling. What will happen? I can take up the same thing, but I have to show it in a reverse process. I can show the same thing. Okay. I have to show it in a reverse process. Everything is reversed. So this is from, this will become a cooling coil. This will be a cooling coil. So this will be TDB1, TDB2, TDB3 will be your H2, H3, process is completely reversed. Then what will be your bypass factor for cooling process? It is the ratio of, okay, I can write it something like this. It is the ratio of your, I can write this particular thing with respect to See here the most coolant temperature is your TdB3. Okay. So you see, a sensible cooling, it also the surface turns at a temperature less than the dry bulb temperature of the air, but greater than the dew point temperature. You have to be very careful here. See, this TdB3 should be greater than your dew point temperature. Why this condition is required? Because your maybe if it is below the dew point temperature, it will start condensing. I should ensure that this cooling temperature is a very, very important thing. So when I am trying to do sensible cooling, the cooling coil temperature TdB3 should be greater than your dew point temperature. Well, just like evaporating coil as a refrigeration cycle. Okay, the sensible cooling, let me write that. The sensible cooling is achieved by passing the air over the cooling coil. Cooling coil like an evaporating coil or like an evaporator coil of a refrigeration cycle of a refrigerator. Okay, so if you very refrigerator, why I call it a refrigerator cycle? Let me call it refrigerator cycle because it can be a vapor compression refrigeration system, or it can be vapor absorption. Vapor absorption means I have to go towards the brine coil or brine solutions. So the specific humidity, see, if you look at it very closely, even during cooling also the specific humidity remains constant. The only thing is the dry bulb temperature is decreasing. See what's happening, so I am going in this particular direction, the dry bulb temperature is decreasing. The dry bulb temperature is decreasing. Okay, so the process I am trying to show it on your psychrometric side. The heat removed, see, I am trying to remove the heat from the air. I am trying to remove the heat from the air. So the bypass factor for this particular condition is given by something like this. It is the difference between, okay, it is equal to T dB2 minus T dB3 divided by T dB1 minus T dB3. See, I have to ensure this. See, it is the difference between the dry bulb temperature at the exit minus of your coil to the dry bulb temperature at the entry to the dry bulb temperature of the coil. That's all. So this bypass factors will determine what quantity, how much you are trying to cool it or you are trying to heat it. Is that clear?